Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode number 319, where we shall have our power. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Well, up until about an hour and a half ago, I was great. Now I'm kind of reeling.
Glenn's a bit emotional tonight.
I am a bit emotional tonight.
His horse did not win.
Well, no, that's not it. Because, well, I
He didn't truly have a horse in that race.
He did have
a horse in that race.
But,
There's your analogy.
Yeah. Horse racing. I could have gone with that.
Now the listeners are very confused because, number one, they have no idea why
And that wasn't on
They
pre-roll.
have no idea why I'm emotional.
The horse in the race
two.
was the dead one we keep whipping.
So, yeah, the Oscars were tonight.
Yay.
And I won, by the way. And
Boo.
That's why he's so emotional. He's so happy that he won.
no, that's not it. It might have been
I'm
that,
emotional that he won.
It might have been that last category that is probably like something I've never seen in my life, except for maybe last year's Miss America pageant. But
But who watches that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Steve Harvey's like, man, I don't have billions of people watching me do that.
The float heard round the world.
Yeah.
Tonight. That's wow. And
Up until that, the broadcast was great.
I have
I thought Jimmy
Good
Kimmel
show.
did a really good job.
Terrific broadcast. It was going great. I haven't seen either of the films, so I have no stake in who should have won. I'm not upset at all that Moonlight won at all. I'm not upset. I'm upset about what transpired on that stage tonight, and how such a mistake on the biggest category of the night
Yeah.
could happen at the very end of the show. It's just I'm dumbfounded. I've gone from numb to now I'm becoming infuriated and confused and saddened, and it's just I don't know.
Yeah. It's just bizarre.
Anyway, yeah. So I got 14 right, and
You got 10 more than me. In the back of my head, when they announced La La Land, I was kind of surprised, honestly, because knowing what Moonlight was about, it just seemed like very much all the Oscar things, as the Honest trailer put it.
I wasn't surprised because La La Land's very much one of those, Hollywood feel-good movies about Hollywood, celebrating the history of Hollywood, and it's a musical, and
yeah, it ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
As far as why it should win. But
Yeah, and it did win quite a few.
yeah, it didn't
5.
It didn't run it like a lot of people were thinking it would, though.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, then all of a sudden it was like mass pandemonium on stage.
Oh my gosh.
But full props to the director or the producer
of
for
La La
just
Land.
kind of being like, hey, you guys won.
He
We
owned
screwed
the
up.
mistake.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For the Academy.
Totally.
So it, yeah, kudos to him for the professionalism that he showed
Mm-hmm.
in turning that over.
And congrats to the folks at Moonlight.
Yeah, and everyone who won.
Yep.
I look forward to seeing some of these movies.
Yeah, me too.
Hopefully
as
once they start coming out on Blu-ray.
As soon as I see some of the ones from last year.
Yeah, even the ones that are on Netflix.
Speaking of movies, did you guys see anything this week?
I watched King Kong. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Which one? The
original.
The 19th.
I want to say I have.
The original, the Jeff Bridges, the Peter Jackson.
Well, see, I'm going to go through all of them
Okay.
in preparation for Kong Skull Island. But yeah, I think I'd seen some
You know,
of...
the first three, they're not sequels, dude.
Yes.
Are you going to watch Kong Lives?
No.
That was the quasi-sequel to
King
the
Kong Lives?
1970. It's called Kong Lives.
I thought it was King Kong Lives. I want to watch
maybe it is
Son
King
of
Kong
Kong,
Lives,
but
but anyway.
the library doesn't have it.
Oh, Son of Kong is one of my favorite movies.
Do you own it?
Ever. No, I'm sorry. You should ask Dave. I think he has it. I think he was in that King Kong collection that I got.
We
own
have one at Vintage. I don't know.
It's
Maybe
so
after,
good.
because I only have so much time.
It's so good.
And Peter Jackson's is going to take forever. Yeah, but I was going to do those and Godzilla, since it's all going to be one shared universe. So I think I had seen most of King Kong. I didn't remember the beginning of it. It's really enjoyable. The effects alone are just incredible for that time period. And just, while some parts are almost cringeworthy in the sexism and racism, that's also a product of its time also. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I remember watching it as a kid, but not really watching it at my grandmother's house because it terrified me. I had to have been all of, 4 or 6 or something, and they were watching it. And I was pulling a Doctor Who. I was, had my hands and looking between my fingers and behind the couch and everything. And then I went to bed and I dreamt that King Kong was outside my window and stomping through the neighborhood.
See, I remembered large chunks of it. So I obviously had seen it at some point. And I was never afraid of Kong.
Oh, as a kid, that was it. And what's really interesting is going to Universal Studios and riding the King Kong experience, where the original one where you would queue up and supposedly they were evacuating off the island on the Roosevelt tram. And so you're walking through and you can just see glimpses of this city, and there's news monitors that are keeping you occupied while you're in queue lines waiting to be evacuated. And you keep hearing the reports and noises and boom, boom, boom. And that was unnerving to me. And then you get on the tram and there's a gigantic animatronic ape, and it was scary. It really was.
What's amazing about the film is how action-packed it is.
It really is.
The first 30 minutes are kind of slow because you're getting to the island. But then once you get to the island, it is almost non-stop. And then you have a little bit of a lull when they get back to the city. And then it ramps right back up. It just the speed of this film is incredible. And really well acted, I thought.
Glenn, did you watch anything?
I did not watch anything this week except for my usual shows. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was really, really good this week. Oh my gosh. As you were saying off mic before the show, I'll give credit. This was probably the best episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
ever.
By far, yeah.
They've come a long way from that terrible Ghost Rider story arc.
I really enjoyed the Ghost Rider arc. But the LMD, I'm kind of glad to see the LMD coming to an end. Although
I'm not sure where they're going to go now.
Well, we'll be in the Matrix now. So,
yeah.
Or
I don't know how long it'll be
the mainframe. That'll be the next step. But
yeah.
Clearly, and Ada's still around. So I mean, you still have.
There's still that threat.
Was anybody else spoiled on the surprise ending, the surprise guest star?
Yeah, I
was quite surprised by that. Yeah.
I was spoiled, but I also clicked the link and was like, oh, okay.
I didn't click the link, but I saw one article that said a friend returns from S.H.I.E.L.D.'s past or something. I went, oh, Grant Ward's going to be back, huh?
There's only one person that could ever be that's good when they do something like that.
And then when it went to Daisy and your boyfriend, Link, and she went running off, and I went, ugh! It was just, there's his picture.
Yeah.
You meant Lincoln, right?
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Did she say Lincoln?
She said Lincoln.
Yeah, she goes Lincoln? Yeah. And then they pan across to the picture, and it's a picture of Ward.
Which is weird because
Sarah was saying, who's her boyfriend? Who's her boyfriend?
As tired as I was of Ward by the end of the 3rd season, I was really excited to find out, oh, he's coming back.
Even if it's just in this mainframe thing.
It's just, it's a mainframe.
That doesn't matter.
They left us so many little nuggets to chew on until April of what's going to be going on in that mainframe.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Like who Fitz is getting out of the car with, etc.
I like how they've structured it this season, too, where we did the Ghost Rider arc for about 8 episodes, and then the LMD arc for about 8 episodes. I think they've learned from other series that are shorter in scope and frame, and they've realized that if they can make these concise sections of the show, it won't feel like they have to pad it out. I mean, they're still obviously doing some padding in there, but it's actually smart padding. That you're focused on one thing for a short amount of time, and then you move on to another thing.
Well, it treats it more like a comic book, like a 6-issue run.
Say,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to steal that.
Go ahead. It takes it back to its roots.
In your head, too. Besides that, I just watched the usual stuff. The Girls was on last week, so I did go home last week and watch it. Actually, I had a chance to watch the episode. I saw HBO Now actually dropped the episode last night, and I was going to watch it, and I started reading I didn't start reading, and I picked up my book because I'm about halfway through it, or was last night halfway through it. Picked up Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, so I've only got one more act to go in that one, and I'm done. So.
Nice. We finished Order of the Phoenix. So while I decide if I want to move on to 6 or pick up a different book to read this arrow, I'm reading To Her Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Nice little interlude. It's really enjoyable.
I need to pick that one up too. Now, is that done in screenplay form or is that done in novel form?
There is a screenplay or an adaptation, but this is the would-be textbook.
Oh, okay. So it's the small one.
So it's the Hogwarts library.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a quick read. I read that one.
Yeah, it's like 75 pages of that. Well, this is from the Hogwarts library, so it was. I don't know if the version you read had the annotations from Harry Potter in them. Yeah, so it's that one.
Because it's like actually reading a textbook.
Yeah. It's really enjoyable so far. Did you watch anything or do anything fun?
Just our normal shows. We still have
Legion is so weird, isn't it?
Legion's very weird. I'm enjoying it, but I don't know that I'm enjoying it. It's one of those shows you have to work at.
Yeah. If it weren't 8 episodes this season, I would consider giving up. But
is it only 8?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll keep me around.
Since I'm practically halfway through now, I feel like I should just stick with it and see what happens.
See, we're only 2 in, but I was kind of like,
3 is just as weird as 2.
Okay.
You said there's only 6 issues.
8.
It's 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll pick that. I've got that one in my queue to watch.
It's really weird. It's really trippy.
Yes.
I watched the first episode of Riverdale. Have you guys
Really?
heard about this?
Oh, Archie.
Okay. So, have you guys heard much about it? Though?
I just know it's a dark take on Archie comics.
Okay, so I grew up. In fact, I still occasionally pick up Archie comics. I've always loved Archie comics, and I used to read them religiously when I was younger. Love the characters, love the humor, love the slappy, fun, light comedy of them. When I watched Riverdale, not expecting what I got out of Riverdale, which is part 90210, part Twin Peaks.
Really?
Yeah, and part, I don't know, heavy primetime drama. I mean, it's wild because it's the familiar characters, but they're in a completely different.
Is
dark
it
world.
Twin Peaks because it's weird, or Twin Peaks because it's crime?
It's because it's an event, something that has happened that is similar to. It's not the weird, trippy, strange alien.
It's not the David Lynch stuff.
No, it's not the David Lynch stuff. But that's the part Twin Peaks is almost a plot element of it.
That you don't know what is it kind of like
Laura
shrouded
Palmer,
in mystery?
It's the little Laura Palmer mystery where she washes up on the beach at the very beginning. Well, a character. This is not spoiling anything, but a character has died in Riverdale, and
you don't know who did it.
Yeah, his sister has survived. Apparently, he fell out of the boat. But there's this big reveal at the end of the episode of he didn't just fall out of the boat. So it says that's the element of it that's there of that. And then there's a little bit of Archie comics sprinkled in. Just basically they use the characters, but they have the love triangle going between Veronica and Betty and Archie. Jughead hasn't been utilized much, but he's kind of in the background blogging about what's going on.
I wonder if they actually have that blog online somewhere.
Maybe. Moose is... I like how they're flirting. There's another character that I'm not familiar with at all who might be in the comics now, but his character is homosexual. And there's this... It seems like there's a tryst of him and Moose going on, and Moose maybe is exploring his sexuality, which was interesting. I thought that was kind of... Because, Moose is the big bully guy. Yeah. But... It'll be interesting where they go with that, because Moose seems to be in this show the character that doesn't want anybody to know that he's exploring. In fact, he makes those comments when they're the ones that go down and actually discover the body. But then you've got Reggie, and I like a lot of the bold attempts they did. They've got Josie and the Pussycats, but they've chosen an African American actress to play her, which I think is a great idea. And then I think Reggie's Asian, so there's a lot of diversity too.
Oh, that's good.
So it's
CW is usually pretty good about diversifying.
So. Anyway, it's weird because they hooked me because it was Archie, and I thought, okay. But then they got me into it, and I thought, this is just wrong. This whole scenario is
just the
wrong.
premise is...
But I watched all the way to the end, and I thought, this isn't my kind of show, but I'm going to keep watching this show.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Let's move on to news. We got a teaser.
Good.
Not a trailer.
Not a trailer.
Some people are calling it a teaser trailer.
We would like to clarify BBC's recent release. New Doctor Who trailer.
We'd like to clarify our Facebook post from earlier in the day, or week.
From yesterday.
Yeah.
That's what happens when I don't watch something before I share it.
I wasn't going to throw you under the bus.
Oh, I'll take claim on that. I'm not the only one calling it a trailer.
We were going to collectively take that.
I would have thrown you under the bus because I'm sitting over here going, I'm so glad it wasn't me.
We had a long discussion, at least 6 or 8 podcasts ago, about the difference between teasers and trailers, and then we get it wrong. It's like, wait a minute.
Again.
I
didn't watch it first.
What's this wee stuff, Kemosabe?
What did you guys think of the teaser?
I liked it.
It's good. It's weird to get a teaser after getting a full trailer. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So I can see where a lot of people are confused.
We meant to release this first.
It doesn't say a lot for what we're going to see, but what it says a lot in context is what Bill is saying. When you first meet him, he's a hero.
He's funny.
He's funny, that's it. The
second time, he's amazing.
Amazing.
The third time, you realize he's the most dangerous man in the universe.
Where did I get hero from? Anyway, yeah.
Well, that's because it ends with Time for Heroes.
Oh, that's what it was, yeah. So there's a lot
The
of
Return of the Ghost.
There's a lot of that context that she's talking about. And you can apply it to Capaldi's 3 years as the Doctor now. Mm-hmm. And with the first 2, are they echoes of what we saw in the first 2 series that he was in? And then you can also apply it to the fact that, well, it's coming from Bill, so she's making these observations from her point of view. And so I think there's lots of layers to it.
It almost feels like, I remember popping in the Series 1 DVD and seeing all these teasers, and it felt like some of those, because they were trying to introduce Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor before the series ever started. It kind of feels like this, because we haven't, as far as I'm aware, haven't had a lot of teasers like this. Most of them had been teasers like short clips more than anything else. The only other time I can think of something like this is the 2 alternating ones with Matt and Jenna talking about talking about her as a mystery, but that was still kind of more, there's meat there, because it's talking about the overall mystery of what's happening here.
Agreed. It talked about a plot point that was going to come up for each of them.
And then we got a nice shot of a blurry bunch of villains.
Yeah. Which is, at the end it's like, who are we going to see?
No, most definitely a Dalek, Cyberman, and an Ice Warrior.
Which we know the Ice Warrior's coming.
Did we know the Cybermen were coming back?
Mm-mm.
You're not more excited over that?
Well, it looks almost like an old face. It looks like a Cybus face. I don't know if it's just distorted weird or what. You're not shocked that Glenn's not more excited about the Daleks?
No, we knew they'd be back.
But yeah, I was going to say, even as much as I love the Daleks, I'm never surprised that they're back.
It was an enjoyable teaser. I was slightly disappointed it wasn't an actual trailer. Because I shared it, and then 12 hours later I was like, oh yeah, I haven't watched that yet. And hopped online and went, that was it? Did I watch the wrong one?
The cynic in me wants to bag on it for being like, okay, loud noises, explosions, hero talk, here's the Doctor, some more loud noises and explosion. Yeah, okay. But I can't, because I still get giddy excitement the Doctor Who's coming back.
Kudos to DoctorWhoNews.net, who did call it Doctor Who News Series Teaser. Good job, guys. Good job. What else is in the news?
Well, there is a rumor that Class is being canceled.
No more school, no more... Oh, wait. You mean the show.
The show.
Damn it.
The Mirror is reporting that they have axed it.
Which could be erroneous.
The BBC says no decision on a recommission has been made. That's the official announcement.
Do we have any information on viewing figures for the show?
It did not do great.
So here's the situation. When it premiered on BBC Three, I believe.
Yes.
And it did moderately well on BBC Three on its first run. However, when they commissioned the series was required to run on BBC One proper after it had run on BBC Three. And unfortunately, they were showing it at 11:30 at night over on BBC One. And the overnight viewing figures were coming in, and they were abysmal. In fact, there were some nights that the regular overnights beat the nights that Class was on, which is unheard of. That we're talking test patterns and things that nobody watches. And so I think what they did is they did themselves a disservice, because I think the
Showing it
BBC
too
is
late.
looking, for that, and they're looking at those numbers and going, well, it didn't draw anybody here. Well, of course it didn't draw anybody there, because it's 11:30 at night.
And it was a
so-
repeat.
And it was a repeat, yes.
Yeah.
Everybody had already seen it. So I think what has happened here is the number crunchers, the bean counters, the BBC are looking at the numbers, and they're not looking at the overall picture of what they've done to this series by putting it on BBC Three at a decent time and getting, they weren't remarkable ratings, but they were average ratings. They were decent ratings. And then rerunning it on their, flagship network, but running it so late at night and saying, well, it's obviously not doing well because it's not bringing viewers to the 11:30 hour.
And months
no one
after
expects to
it
bring
had
viewers to the 11:30 hour. That's not where you.
Well,
put
and
a
I guess
show.
it didn't
especially
do a
show
lot of
that's targeted to
BBC
young
iPlayer
adults.
either.
Well, yeah,
Didn't
that's
do well
another thing
online.
They look at as well.
And what do you understand how the appreciation rate works?
Appreciation index is a different set of numbers as how someone feels about the series, not
How
necessarily
enjoyable
how
it
many,
was.
Yeah, how enjoyable it was, not how many eyes were on screens at that time. So,
Well, it got a 70 compared to 82 for Return of Dr. Mysterio
right. So
on the appreciation.
appreciation
That's not
index,
horrible.
appreciation figures.
I'm not sure how that
I
compares
think
to
they're
other.
slightly better than.
I mean, if we're scoring out of 100, that's not horrible.
Which may be what has it on the bubble right now with the BBC. Is
Yeah.
that the appreciation index is probably up there high enough that they're going, well, if we look at it this way, maybe it does warrant a recommission. So
The Mirror article says it is a low appreciation rate.
We'll let you know what our appreciation rating is when we get around to
Yeah.
reviewing it after season
Well, and
10.
yeah, who knows how it's going to do over here in the U.S.
well, hence another issue that you'll have to look at too is that if it does really well on BBC America will be willing to fund a second series. So that's another reason that the BBC is going to be on the bubble of this, is they want to know if they're going to have a second funding source for this. I don't know how much money BBC America put into Class in its first run. But if it does well, they will certainly throw some money at it, and it will become a co-production, and the BBC will make sure that they get a second series, which in turn the BBC now has a good funding source to be able to put it on their networks again and run a second series as well. Because they're not going to say, well, it didn't do well here, BBC America can have it. They're going to
Yeah.
say, there's enough, money in this now that it makes it viable for us to run Series 2 and see how it does over here as well. So.
It's true. That's it for news. Scott sent in some feedback that unfortunately slipped through the cracks, but we will read it out now. He says, in the words of U2, I can't believe the news today. I want to close my eyes and make it go away. Hi, Kansas crew. First, John Hurt dying. And now, Peter Capaldi leaving. To say a few words about John Hurt. I was a fan of his going back to the mid-70s when he was Caligula on I, Claudius. It takes a special actor to make a crazed madman someone you could have sympathy for, and he did it. My best wishes to him and his family. As for Capaldi, as much as I am a Moffat fan, I was so looking forward to seeing how his Doctor would be like from a new perspective. The idea of 3 years and out was one thing when a series season was 26 weeks long, but 12 weeks and a Christmas special is too fast. In this new round of Who Will Be the Doctor, I want to stay with my original pick, maybe from last year or longer, of Olivia Colman. She's had 3 seasons working with Tennant and Chibnall. She has the range from doing comedy to serious drama. And I just saw a headline from the Daily Telegraph where Tennant thinks she would be magnificent. 2 other choices that I would also like are Haley Atwell and Richard Ayoade. Did I say that right? Yay. Scott.
Interesting choices, Scott.
Yeah. I've heard Olivia Colman batted around quite a bit.
Would not be opposed.
I think
Good actor, that's all I'm asking.
Yep.
I think in the circles of fandom, Olivia Colman is up there as far as a lot of people. I think her appreciation index is very high among fans at this point, which sort of tells me that I'm not saying that I think it's far too early to be speculating this when we're an entire year out. However, I think that gauges enough of a level of how acceptable a female doctor would be at this point. And I think maybe Missy being the master now has maybe sort of shifted those figures of people that were maybe against it or a little trepidatious about it. They're probably more warming up to the idea of a female doctor. And so I think we're at this point now where, as much as you see Olivia Colman being, I could see her as the next doctor, I think that's maybe a gauge as to whether they may think it's time to attempt a female doctor in the role. So we'll see where it goes. I don't have a lot of knowledge of her. I have not watched Broadchurch at all, which I hear she's phenomenal in. Most of my experience with Olivia is in comedies. She did a lot of comedies on BBC that I've watched. One particular is Peep Show.
She was very good in the 5-H Doctors reboot.
Because she's in everything.
Yeah.
The 3 lines that she had.
She was very good. Made a believer out of me.
Well, if you want to send us feedback, you can send it to feedback@travelingthevortex, or go to our website and fill out that Send Us Feedback tab. And if for some reason you haven't heard your feedback read out, let us know.
Yeah.
Reach out to us on
As Scott
Facebook
did.
or Twitter. Yeah.
Not that Scott used it, but we're disallowing smoke signals. We've joked about it, that she can send them, and we've decided that that's not a good idea.
Yeah. Let's move on to our reviews.
Are we there already? Holy cow.
We're there already.
We're just moving right along.
Lost since its premiere on the BBC 50 years ago, the full 6-part story of the Power of the Daleks has now been meticulously animated based on the original audio, photographs.
Photographs, folks.
Patrick Troughton!
How'd you get your DVD signed, Sean?
Wasn't easy!
And surviving film clips, one of the most celebrated Doctor Who stories of all time, this 6-part adventure finds the newly regenerated Second Doctor and his companions, Polly and Ben, on the planet Vulcan, battling his oldest and most deadliest foe, the Daleks.
Bum, bum, bum. I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
So you actually got to finish it.
I did get to finish it.
Did you watch in black and white before you watched it in color? So
No, I've only seen the color version at this point.
Well, you saw the first
I
half.
I saw clips. Yeah, I saw a couple
half.
of hand. Well, yeah, I guess I saw the first half in black and white. I like the color. We'll get into that in a minute. This is a good story. I think it's a well-told story.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the elements that are in this. I don't like the Doctor in this one. This one very much is, which is weird because it was the first one, but in hindsight, it's very much a post-regeneration sickness episode where he's not quite there yet.
Well,
and
it's one of those where obviously Patrick is trying to figure out how he's going to play him, and the writers aren't sure how to write him yet.
Yeah.
Because there are parts of it that seems like it's written very First Doctor still. I know Moffat says that you just write it and the actor puts his stamp on it, but I don't fully believe that.
I don't fully believe it either. And they're trying to keep that air of mystery around him, and he's almost trying too hard to not confirm or deny that he's the Doctor. And he even references the Doctor.
He talks in
third person. But what worked for me was the companions. Was that Ben and Polly. And I like that they have that struggle, that Ben is adamant that I don't know who this guy is, and Polly's like, I think it's the Doctor. And as you go through the story, Ben slowly kind of, no, I don't need it. He keeps backing off of it and won't commit to it. And then by the end, he's like, yeah, that's totally the Doctor. Come on, let's go. And there's no acknowledgement of it. There's no, you changed your mind. He's just on board all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, it does work.
One thing with the way the Doctor is portrayed, I think it also goes to show Patrick's acting abilities. Because he goes from, he's not the cosmic hobo here. He is kind of grumpy and a little darker and more mysterious, and to be able to then swing later to that more comedy aspect of it later in his run, I think it shows more of his range.
I think you sort of hit the nail on the head as far as character of the Doctor is written in such a way in this one, and I just don't think Patrick knew how he wanted to play the Doctor. And I think we've referenced the fact that it wasn't until Underwater Menace that Patrick really cemented what kind of Doctor he wanted to play, and we don't get there until three stories later, because you've got this one, and then you've got the Highlanders, then I believe after that is Underwater Menace. I think the Doctor was heavily influenced by the script in this one specifically, and I think it's because this is the first time in history that this has happened, that we've had a actor come in and play the Doctor. I mean, it's definitely the first time. It's the first time ever that the Doctor's completely changes personalities and faces and everything like that. And so I think a lot of that was driven by the script. David Whittaker, I think, who probably should get a lot of credit for being able to hand over a story like this and with a new Doctor, with a new person playing it. And I think he also didn't want to stray too far from how William Hartnell had portrayed the character. So I think that's what Troughton's doing here, is by invoking a lot of this mystery of who this different person is, it's getting the audience used to the fact that we've got a different face, we've got a slightly different personality, we've got a different person playing the Doctor here.
Yeah.
So I think that helps, and I think Whittaker's writing helps that along. And Patrick's performance is great in this, don't get me wrong. When you watch this and you realize we've seen so much of Troughton's second Doctor from episodes far in advance, or stories far in advance, to where this one was down the line, to look back at this one and realize that he's still putting in a very strong performance with a Doctor that we're still very unfamiliar with. I think that's a testament to his acting, as a testament to Whittaker's writing.
You really almost have to look at it as a different animal. I initially was thinking I would compare it with maybe Deep Breath for being kind of a not well done transfer of Doctor. But that's really not even fair either, because Deep Breath should have had the benefit of, we've done this X number of times before, and people know what to expect. Nobody knew what to expect with this one, so it's you can't almost compare it to anything else in the canon.
Well, and it's been said before that they could have easily just tried to have another actor continue on without really changing the Doctor too much. And the fact that they do make these drastic changes and make a point, they could have found somebody that was kind of like William Hartnell to try to carry it on, and they didn't do that. And I think that is partially part of the way he tried to write it also.
I also think the Daleks are sort of returned to a bit of a menacing presence in this one as well. I think that by making them this subversive group, that the colonists don't quite know whether to trust these new machines. And we've got the one lead scientist, and I even rewatched this weekend, I can't remember his name. The guy looks like Niter. Lesterson. You've got Lesterson, who is so overjoyed and excited about putting these things to work and being able to utilize these things and give them their power so that they can help us and we can utilize them. And so I think by taking the Daleks back to a bit of a more menacing presence, because they sort of got away from that. We got the Daleks, which I think the Daleks are genuinely scary in that. We don't know what to expect. They're brand new. We don't know what they're capable of at that point. Daleks Invasion Earth, which I think they are still quite menacing, because maybe their plan is a bit hokey, but they still are scary because they have taken over the Earth and they're causing havoc here. It's when you get to Dalek Master Plan, which I know I've got the benefit of having a little more knowledge, that they're a little more, there's a little less menacing there and a little more, I don't want to say a comical element, but they're played to more of a humorous type. Not too much, but they're more of a bumbling type villain. And then even more so, I think, in the chase, as they're trying to chase them down, which you guys, have the knowledge of that. So I think we started getting away from that. I think once we get to Evil of the Daleks too, we'll kind of see that menacing villain carries over into Evil as well. So I think that helps, that we've returned the Daleks to less of a, I don't want to say they're comic relief, because they never were really even a comic relief in Hartnell's era, but there wasn't as much brevity there as there is when we return to that.
Well, and I think there is something to be said also for absence. The fact that they were gone for quite a while between Dalek's Master Plan to this. I don't know the exact number of stories, but it's at least 2 companions worth, because Stephen leaves and Dodo is kind of the transition. So Dodo at least didn't encounter the Daleks at all. Granted, she's probably not in as many as I think she is, but it's still at least a good season, if not longer, that the Daleks aren't around to menace, and the law of diminishing returns of how effective they are as villains.
I would agree.
And the fact that their plan is just, we need to get power and then we can do what we want to do, the fact that it's kind of a simple plan works to the Daleks' benefit for this. Because it tends to be the more complex plans they try to make, the less they make sense. We're going to core the Earth and use it as a spaceship. Why? Okay.
Because it'll be cool.
Oh, you just need power. You're trying to get back to your station and take over the world or universe. Okay, all right.
Well, and it's passé now because we've seen this idea repeated in
With other villains, too.
Is it Death to the Daleks with the Exilians, where the guns don't work and they have to adapt to that? And then obviously in Victory of the Daleks, where we've got Would You Like a Cup of Tea? And so when these Daleks are going for the first time, I am your servant, it's downright creepy.
Oh, yeah.
It is an effectively chilling moment because it's the first time. And, of course, we're all on the couch screaming, "No, you're not!" And everybody's buying it.
Where the doctor's saying, no, they're evil.
I've always said this before, that I don't think the Daleks are as menacing unless the Doctor is afraid of the Daleks. When the Doctor's afraid of the Daleks, then I'm afraid of the Daleks.
Yep.
And I think this is one of those situations where the Doctor's driving home the fact that you need to be careful of these guys. You need to be afraid of these guys. And so that, I think, helps drive that point home. We revert back to the third Doctor eventually being it's the Daleks again type thing. Now he is very cautioning when we see them again in Day of the Daleks, Planet of the Daleks. He's still cautioning, but he seems a little more flippant about it than in this situation where the Doctor's very concerned that they're bringing back this evil entity. And I think that Matt Smith sells that again in Victory of the Daleks, which is very similar to this. So that works for me. If you can make the Doctor be afraid of the Daleks, then I'm afraid of the Daleks, because then I know the situation is grave.
This is one that I very much enjoyed all the humans in the story. Whereas normally when you get a group of people that are like, "Oh, we don't know what this is. Let's feed it some power." And, "Oh, it accidentally killed a guy. Well, maybe it didn't mean to. Let's give it some more power and see what we can do with it." I should be rooting for these people to die horribly.
Well, it's one of those... If these people are interesting enough that if you took out the Daleks and put just a machine in, it would still be a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the interesting characters and their motivations and the twists and turns the story makes of who's doing what and who's behind what.
Janley, she started off in episode 1 as just random lab tech number 4, but then wound up being like the head of the... I was like, oh, cool. I mean, every episode she was given a little bit more to do, a little bit more mystery revealed, and so I didn't see any of that coming. The governor, I like the fact that he wasn't corrupt, as so many of these people that we wind up dealing with in these kinds of scenarios are. Now, he was usurped by a corrupt guy.
Well, and his fault is he's just a little too much by the book.
Yeah.
He feels secure in his position, which I think is his first downfall, is the fact that I think he feels like he has more power than he does. When you're that secure in your role, then that's a dangerous situation.
Well, especially when your chief of security is a Nazi.
Yeah.
When they came out wearing the all-black uniform, it was like, not even subtle. Just gonna go there.
That so easily could have been turned into this just power-inducing governor, but he really comes across as this by-the-book guy, and that's another detriment, is the fact that he is so by the book that it blinds him to the situation that's developing around him.
Well, and the fact that he then takes off halfway through the story,
Yes.
then allows it to kind of happen while he's gone. I almost got the impression that had he stuck around, the resistance might not have risen up as much as they did.
His third downfall is he puts far too much trust in others.
Yeah.
And I think that's what bites him in the end, is the fact that he puts, what's his name, the Nazi guy in
Bragan,
charge.
yeah.
In charge.
And who was the other guy that was they kind of led you to believe was the bad guy, even though I don't know that anybody really believed it?
Quinn?
Quinn's another character.
Oh, yeah, who winds up getting locked up with the Doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quinn's another character who's really pretty great, and they pull the rug out from under you several times as the story progresses because you're not really sure where you stand with him or why you should stand with him there. And then there's even Lesterton. Okay, the egghead who's going to give him the power. Oh, he's going to be that guy. No, he isn't. Because he never...
He gains a conscience halfway through.
He does.
Yeah.
And
although he has to observe what's going on before he finally tips the scale.
He thinks he has the power also.
Yeah.
And it's not until he realizes he doesn't have the power over these creatures like he thought he does. That's what tips him over the edge.
Wait a minute. there's an allegory here.
Yeah.
There's several layers
There's
of the
a
title
layer.
of this. I didn't even.
You didn't know that?
No, I'm
Oh, you can't.
I'm trying to be painfully obvious of the fact that
There's a lot of
there's
power
more
struggles
here
in
going
Power
on.
of the Daleks, other than the electrical one. But I love the fact that not only does he grows a conscience after he sees this stuff, that he then actively starts trying to stop that, but then he goes nuts. And it was just kind of like, I didn't see any of that coming.
I didn't see it coming. I think that's one of the weaknesses of the story is I think the madness comes at too abrupt of a pace for me. I think that he descends into madness too quickly in this situation. Now, on the flip side of that, I think where they take the character up to so late in the story that they had nowhere to go but that direction.
Or
with
kill
the
him.
character. Or
I mean,
kill him,
that's
right.
that's what I was expecting
Which
to
we get
happen.
as well, so.
He gains a conscience. He tries to turn on him. They blast him. That's the end of this guy.
That's what I would
No,
have expected
you know.
too,
Yeah.
And I think he may have been a few shades of crazy already.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't going to take much.
And you can see that when he gets the conscience aspect of it. You see that kind of crazy look in his eye of, oh God, what have I done? And then he's kind of unhinged the rest of the time all the way through
Well,
that.
I suppose a certain, I've doomed us all realization maybe could press somebody into the madness that quickly, but that was just something that felt a little too... in fact, if that had peaked and subtly changed slower throughout the process of it, I think I might have had a better acceptance of it, but it's fine. I'm not knocking it altogether. That was one of the issues that I had with it.
And I think the fact that
It's a little like
pretty much
Lloyd Bridges' character in Airplane, where he of course he's stepping into the different abuses that he's going back to, but by the end he's so BS crazy. It's like, wait a minute, where did this come from?
Well, and I think that to some extent, had not most of these characters died, I wouldn't have enjoyed their arcs as much. The fact that so many of them die, like only Quinn is left at the end almost, that helps me be more okay with his crazy aspect, because he doesn't go on to continue being crazy. He then dies.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Had he lived, it would have been a completely different issue.
Well, and even Janley,
yeah.
her almost quasi-heroic redemption there near the end of the hallway works really well for her character.
Yeah.
Because you really kind of, as leader of the resistance, you really feel like she would have gone to any means. I mean, I think she would have gone to any means to make sure that the resistance prevailed. But she also realizes the mistakes that she's made along the way as well, and gets a bit of that redemption moment there in the hallway as well. So that character's developed really well too. So.
My one complaint with the story in general, I think, would probably be, because we have so many great other characters, aside from helping us ease into this new Doctor, the companions don't get a lot to do.
That's very true.
I mean, Polly just goes away for 2 whole episodes, and then Ben goes away after that. I mean, we get a little bit of Polly trying to talk whatever his face is, whoever was in love with Janley,
Right.
whatever that guy was, into kind of convince them, pushing them the other direction away from the rebellion. But other than that, aside from the Doctor, our main characters aren't really doing much in this story.
Well, and even at times the Doctor
Well, he gets locked
is
up for a
running
whole
in circles,
episode, yeah.
though, too. That's the other, I think, the problem with this as well. I think Patrick Stewart is putting forth
Troughton.
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart would have been
Patrick
very
Stewart might have
different.
been doing a very good performance at this time too, on stage somewhere in the UK. But Patrick Troughton, while he's putting on a very good performance, it seems like the character's being run in circles a lot. I think that also has to do with the fact that we've stretched this out to 6 episodes, and I think maybe Whittaker might have struggled to find things for the Doctor to do. And
Although the glasses to open the jail cell
Yeah.
was just fantastic.
There's moments, don't get me wrong. In fact, there are shining moments that he does give the Doctor, but there's a lot of times where there's that capture and escape feel of
Yeah.
this.
And the end of that joke where they stop and he goes back and gets the water pitcher. We don't want him to get out.
That's the glimmer of the future Doctor that
Yeah.
we're familiar
I think
with.
you're right. Yeah.
That's at the point where I'm like, oh, okay, this is 2 that I know and love, and he kind of stays that way through the rest of the story.
Yeah. I also enjoy the Daleks in this quite a bit. As you said, everybody dies. And I even tweeted out on Friday Night Who that I really was appreciative of the fact that they kind of let the plan go. the Daleks have this plan, and we're manufacturing more of us, and we're going to get our stuff, and then they wipe out just about everybody.
Well, it's not very often you get kind of a Dalek plan that, to some extent, gets to succeed.
Yeah.
They're always thwarted so early that, as you tweeted, they actually get to somewhat do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very refreshing in this one to actually see Daleks killing people and causing mayhem and being the victors for a while, as opposed to, we're going to enact this plan 3, 2, oh, the doctor stopped us. And so I really enjoyed that aspect. I was kind of rooting for him. Yeah, go kill that guy.
Should we talk about some of the technical aspects of the animation?
Let's talk about the animation.
We talked a little bit about this when we were reviewing these on a step-by-step, so we won't dwell a lot on some of the maybe negatives and positives that we talked about, but we'll touch on some of the highlights. I think.
So I have to say, I was I didn't like the people in the black and white. I thought the Daleks looked gorgeous. I'm reversed on the colorized. The people look great, and the Daleks look too CGI'd.
Yep.
It doesn't match the style anymore for some reason.
I noticed that too, especially when you get more and more and more of them.
Yeah.
It's like when there's just one or two on screen, they're fine. Once you get an army of Daleks moving in that corridor, they look very CGI.
See,
and I thought that was strange.
And some of the times they look brighter than they should.
They do. I think they will look wonderful. I think they look amazing in both black and white and color. But I agree with you that the contrast against the other characters,
that's the problem.
It works against it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you could do an entire Dalek story animated in this style, they would look gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right, they do very much contrast against the regular characters. Now, that being said, I still think that this was the best way to do the Daleks. I mean, it really was. Even though it's very contrasting, they look gorgeous in this. They look incredible.
All of the machinery, the Daleks look great. The console,
the backgrounds,
the TARDIS console looked
the TARDIS
amazing.
Any of the square backgrounds and the technology and the laboratory and all of that stuff looked fantastic. When you put the
vessel,
paper dolls in front of it, it just kind of brings it right down.
I tried to look for that moment where you talked about where the outfits changed, and I didn't notice it in the color version.
I didn't notice it in the color version either.
This time either.
So I wonder if it was just too similar of styles of clothes between the black and whites.
I think that
because the color, also the outfits,
the difference is
really helps.
The colors remain the same; they remain correct, so you don't notice that the outfit is actually the cut of the outfit.
Maybe that's what it was. I was looking at colors and not the style.
Yeah, because I did notice this time. I had to go back and go, where did I miss this? And it's the cut of the style of, but with the color, it wasn't caught. So that's why it's so glaringly obvious to me in the black and white, is because they didn't see it. Because I still go back to my belief that this was commissioned to be colorized initially. And then they at some point made the decision to put the black and white filters on it. Instead of colorizing the black and white version, I think they black and whited.
Did you notice that there was a credit for colorization?
Yes, but even when you're making
an
animated show,
there would still be a
still
credit
have
there.
colors. You still have coloration artists. So
I also think that the colorized, with such a large cast within the mining colony, the very, very smart decision to color code people.
Yes,
and give everybody a different outfit really helped sell to me who some of these mid-level administrators were.
Ranking wise,
how
things went.
Yeah, I don't pretend to understand it. It was just, that's the brown guy, that's the orange guy. Until I kind of got caught up with the names, it really helped with where things were at.
I've made no secret, I've always loved this story because I watched the Telestat version of it that they released on the MP3 CDs years ago. I've also listened to the audio on this. I haven't read the novel yet, but that'll be my next goal. I've always loved this, and every time I watch this, it gets better and better. And I think one of the things, there was a step back when I watched this version, only because the animation is not up to the best. I think it's kind of subpar as far as animation goes. Now, I understand why they did it, and I'm very grateful that they animate it, regardless of how choppy or 2D it looks to me, and puppet looking it does. That just kind of set me back on the story the first time I watched it. This time watching it, and the color kind of helps as well, but this time watching it, I didn't have as many problems with the very, stoic walking and the rocking side to side, and the almost, I always
South
equate
Park.
it to is, or even like they used to have these paper dolls where the hinges and the elbows and things like that were on brads, and you can you move them. That's what it reminds me of. But it was much easier to watch it the second time through and really immerse myself in the story again.
Well, and the more you watch it, watching it in 3-episode chunks, even coming back to episode 4, I'd be kind of put off of the animation at first, and then I'd get used to it and could focus on the story more.
I think
as opposed to watching episode by episode.
I think you and I even mentioned that when we were watching it episode by episode, even by 5 and 6, watching it week to week, we still had gotten gotten used to the animations.
Strangely enough, this is one of the few that maybe we do a disservice by breaking it up at all. Maybe this is one that really benefits from an omnibus. I'm going to watch all 6 parts of this at once, because once you get over the hump of the animation, you're in it. And so you're just rolling along with it.
So I did watch the bonus feature Servants and Masters, which is a really nice making of, and noticed that, because I didn't watch the Telesnap reconstruction, it does benefit from the animation also in the fact that we don't see 2D cutout Daleks in the background.
Do they exist in this one too?
Yeah. Some of the crowd shots were 2D
cut out. They got back to that well from the first Daleks story.
Yeah. And they are painfully obvious 2D cutout from what I saw of the clips of the pictures they showed.
I'm convinced we could make a Dalek story because it worked for the BBC. I can get away with that cardboard
I'm pretty sure
cutout.
they only had like 4.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 actual working Daleks.
I think it's a thoroughly enjoyable one, and I'm glad that they tackled it in the way that they did to bring it out, animated or otherwise. I'm grateful to have it in my collection.
Well, I hope it goes well as far as sales, so that the BBC will consider, to entertain, will consider continuing to do something like this and do it as a special event. Even if you do a co-op with BBC America, hopefully it did fairly well on BBC America for them to throw some funding their way too. It would be nice to see them to do more of these. I did see there are some rumors, which somebody posted on Facebook. What do you think of this? There are some rumors that the next one being considered is the Space Pirates.
Really?
Which is considered one of the stinkers of Doctor Who. I have recently read some rewatches and reviews of Space Pirates that makes me think that maybe it's going to be one of these ones that when we finally do see it, we're going to go, I don't think this is as bad as fandom has painted it. So hopefully we'll get that opportunity with an animated version.
That would be nice.
Is that the one where there was a petition to get them to animate that one?
That's the one. That's what it was, yeah. The petition to get the animation. It frequently falls at the very bottom of the list as far as appreciation for episodes or stories. So.
Well, I didn't bring it up on the podcast. I'm a part of the BBC Worldwide fan survey panel stuff, so I get emails of, what did you think of this, etc., even for non-Doctor Who things. But I got an email and a survey talking about Power of the Daleks, and one of the questions, which had me concerned, was, would you be interested in seeing condensed versions of animated stories?
No.
Nope.
No, absolutely not. But I gave high reviews for Power of the Daleks and said, please do more, please do more. And they asked, what ones would you like to see? So I typed out every single one.
Wait, did you put every single one, or did you actually list them?
I listed each
good man.
each story
good
that doesn't exist anymore.
Good man.
So they are taking polls and finding out what people think about it. So hopefully you filled one out, because I think it only has a certain time frame at which you can do it. So
if you haven't filled it out, fill it out.
Yeah,
if it's not too
you got
late.
one and you haven't filled it out, fill it out.
Vote early, vote often. Well, shall we move on?
To Reimagined.
We don't have a synopsis of this because we don't actually have a physical copy. It did take us some time to procure this one. A little history of this one. This is Power of the Daleks Reimagined. It was actually released in 3 parts online. It stars Nick Stovall as the Doctor, and he also directed and wrote it, I believe, adapted it. And then it guest stars Barnaby Edwards, Nick Briggs, who's just doing the voices of the Daleks. He's not actually in it, but he did the voices. And Lisa Bowerman, who, as we all know, plays Bernice Summerfield. So they had some big Finnish guns helping out with this as well. What they did is they also took this to conventions, and they showed this around And what they did is they had one big screen showing that they made for fans, and their hope, and I don't know if this came through because I've never seen a follow-up of this, but their hope was to raise money for Cancer Research UK and for Children in Need, so that they could do something for that and wouldn't step on any toes as far as copyright or things like that. They weren't in this to make money. It was a kind of a fan project that they did through TNT Films, who was a company that helps fans or other production companies get something on screen. And they made this, which I think is a beautifully done little 70-minute film.
I think it's really well done.
I liked it better than the actual episode. I watched this and I was blown away by how good it was, by knowing the story now, how much they were able to condense and slightly reorganize things that it made even more sense, while still remaining true to the spirit of it.
It almost gave you, because they set it on Earth instead of Vulcan and changed Vulcan to this company, it almost gave it more stakes because, it's a planet I'm familiar with and people I care about.
Right.
And set in the not-too-distant future. Because it's April of this year. and
very impressive effects work.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was kind of going along, and it was like, okay, I see what you did there. And then they got to the hologram in the unit headquarters thing, which is displaying battleships and everything, and I was just like, whoa, that looks amazing. And then the Dalek came out, and I went, oh, cool, you guys, you built a Dalek. And then another one. And then another one. I was like, okay, you built 3, or you had friends build 3. You know, however, everybody bring your Daleks together. We'll paint them the same. But they just kept coming, and then I got confused because it was like, all right, I'm looking for the trickery now. Was that CG, or was that a mirror, or how was that done? And I'll be honest, by the time the thing gets rolling and they are all out there crowded in hallways, moving at different times, I'm not unconvinced that they had more than 3 Daleks on set.
I'm pretty sure they did.
It wouldn't surprise me, because it's that well done.
Yeah.
I was the same way. As more and more Daleks came through that teleport, I kept thinking, okay, that's easily done, because they just had the single shot of the Dalek coming through, and then they had a single shot of a Dalek coming through, and they had a
you
single
just repeat
shot of
it.
a Dalek coming through. And I thought, okay, well, they were just repeating the same shot from the 3 Daleks that they have. And then they wiped out to that one frame where they were all in that room, and I thought, that doesn't look like they've CGI'd. That looks like they've got a room full of Daleks there. So I was quite impressed by that.
When I sat down to watch this, I didn't know when this had come out.
I didn't either.
So I was surprised to see, those are new series Daleks.
Psychic paper.
Yeah, psychic paper. All this sort of stuff.
Which was a great...
They were new series Daleks, but they were painted.
They were painted, which was what I really liked.
I'd like to see more new series Daleks painted like old series Daleks. But the psychic paper with afford every access. Okay. And I was like, thank you. That makes so much more sense than this button.
Well, and that's one of those, speed up things. And
as we've always said.
Yeah.
But no, I was really, really impressed with this one, and just how well it was done. What was his name that played the Doctor? Nick Stovall. Scoville.
Sorry, Scoville.
He, even while not necessarily the strongest acting I've ever seen in a Doctor Who fan film, he put his own stamp on it. He wasn't being Troughton. He wasn't trying to portray a Doctor. He was just being the Doctor. He had little elements of all of them kind of mixed in. And oh my God, the console in the TARDIS was probably the most gorgeous thing ever. I loved the console. But yeah, I was really blown away by how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I liked how it ended. Kind of makes me wish they did a follow-up.
Yeah. I think that was a deliberate, hey, this could continue, but I think that was also a deliberate, I gotcha ending too. Meaning we know we're not going to go on with this anymore. I think Nick Stovall has actually played the Doctor before. They used to do non-canonical stage performances of Doctor Who television series, and he played that version of the Doctor on stage as well. So this wasn't even his first foray into playing the Doctor. So I think that his performance of the Doctor was good. I mean, I actually quite enjoyed him, and I think it's because he doesn't quite play it screwball, but he doesn't quite play it serious. He finds a area in between those, and strikes a very nice balance of Patrick Troughton and
Sylvester
John
McCoy
Burton.
is who
Sylvester
reminded me.
McCoy, yeah.
Somewhere in
Even-
between
even-
those
well,
two.
but see, even McCoy, I think, had that almost comical clown. I think he's a little more between Pertwee and maybe Troughton and McCoy, if you ask me, because there are those a lot of serious moments for. Well, maybe even Colin Baker. There's a lot of those serious moments that just they come across, and he sells it to you, both the comedy or the seriousness of it. I think he meets halfway, and I think that's what I enjoy about that Doctor. It's very, while it uses some elements of Doctors we're familiar with, he makes it his own. So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's true. And I thought all the rest of the cast did a pretty good job too.
They do. Nobody in there besides the people in the war room and unit, I think, are. I mean, I'm sure they're
Professional actors.
Yeah, I think that they all had that caliber of really talented fan film actors and actresses.
Yeah.
And they did a phenomenal job.
And I thought Bragan really stood out.
It was probably my least favorite of them, but and then of course I think probably
Until the end.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, the end was good. He did.
Like that's the part of him that stands out.
The end was very powerful. I think that works. Yeah. They kept touting the fact that we got Barnaby Edwards, that we got Nicholas Briggs, that we got Lisa Bowerman. I think it's that very obvious. We got them in for 4 hours of shooting around a table, and they didn't do anything else on site. But
Nick still did
them.
the voices
for
the Daleks,
but
right?
he could have done that from a studio somewhere. So I mean, he didn't have to be on set either. But so kudos to them for their involvement in helping that out. But I can see where that was probably a very easy thing for them to do because they probably really shot their part in less than a day. So, and that almost seemed a little obvious to me, but it still worked, and it worked to bring Unit into the fold because while I think there's a lot of similarities between Power and this, I say Power, the TV series, and this, I like a lot of the changes they did by making Vulcan a company, and this is actually an Earth-based story, and having what political machinations we had going on within the story Power of the Daleks by taking and making it a struggle between corporates and worker class, and then the Greenpeace, the ecologists, ecologists. That was neat. The power struggle was more on a micro scale, but it worked really well and it translated really well for this project.
Yeah, I thought they also had a great use of stock footage.
Yeah.
For like all the helicopters, but it looked like they actually did get a helicopter.
That was the thing throughout the last part of it, where it's like, okay, it opens and it's like you're it's tight and claustrophobic and a lot of very narrow shots of a computer or a piece of equipment, and it's like, okay, you got somebody who had the keys to the superintendent building, and I could see shooting that. But as it went on, and they opened it up a little bit more, and then they go up to the roof, and and it's like, okay, this is a little more ambitious than what I was giving you guys credit for. And then the helicopter showed up, and so I kept looking at, all right, is that CG? Is that stock footage? Did they make a room look like a helicopter on the
inside?
Not unconvinced they didn't have access to a helicopter.
I think the scene where you see them run up to it and get in is actually must have been commissioned a helicopter for that particular scene, which was kudos to them. As it's flying, it seems a very, very real helicopter matted into a background, which is, I think, was probably what they did there, and that might have been the stock footage, as you're saying. Yeah. But the shots where they actually run up to the helicopter and climb in, that certainly was a helicopter sitting somewhere it sure wasn't on the roof, but it was somewhere when they shot.
Yeah, it was well edited to make me believe that the way it was put together. And of course, the
thing is I really believe that every location shot in that place was in this giant factory, or drilling unit. That's another thing that they did is this probably the location they're using. It's obviously a plant of some sort because they've got all the piping and things like that. But making me believe that was actually a drilling rig there. That I totally believed that.
Yep.
And the minimalistic computer situation that they have in the one room, the really narrow room. I believed that was actually the computer system that was running everything. And then you've got the one guy that's, got the helmet on backwards, which bugged me because you can see the strap over his forehead, but seemed to be believable. The whole electrical panel thing that actually had switches that he was switching, and I thought, what factory let you shoot and actually switch power switches and breakers in your factory like that? Hopefully they weren't powering anything at the time. Yeah, I was very impressed with how well it was shot. And what it was shot
I mean, it was done to the level of an episode of Doctor Who, if not beyond, in many cases. And I really enjoyed the switch that because while for me one of the best parts of the episode Power of the Daleks was when the production ramps up and they're manufacturing them and they're coming through the thing. You get that whole assembly line shot, which is amazing. It looks so cool. I don't buy that that's all happening in that pod. This is just I don't.
Well, there is that line about a secret entrance, so I wonder if it's just a different part of the base.
I don't buy it.
That they're getting access to.
But the way that they changed that to the teleporter, and it was like, okay,
that's a clever way to do it.
You have fixed that now for me. So there were a lot of little things like that just you took this story and really ran with it and made it work.
Yeah.
I think the thing that troubled me the most that I don't think worked well was the interior of the TARDIS. It was far too claustrophobic. It was a neat little console that they had there, but you see the door and the console and just black all around. And so I don't think that set worked as well. But fortunately, we're not inside that set for very long, for any amount of time. So.
That's where the money ran out. We really wanted to do the Eighth Doctor's, full-blown Gothic ceilings. And
that's what it felt like they were trying for.
Couldn't afford it. But I liked the tiny console. I thought it was a really cool kind of almost a throwback to the Fourth Doctor's secondary one, which I don't like. I really don't. I love the look of that room. I don't like that console. But this one worked for me.
Well, I think they actually had time rotors on this one.
Yeah.
And that's why you don't like the other one.
I think that is why I don't like it. Well, the other one looks like a table.
Yeah.
An end table.
All right, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule, this week's Friday Night Who is New Earth. So for all you David Tennant fans out there, please, please, please feel free to jump in with our Friday night at midnight Doctor Who watch along and get on Twitter and look for those hashtags and join the conversation, as they say. And then our show next week, the Titan Comics 10th Doctor series. We're finishing those off, so it's just 11 through 17.
It's a big chunk of comics.
It's a big chunk of comics, and if you are doing those in the trade paperbacks, I found out that there are 2 volumes.
Yeah.
That it's the 11 through 15, and then there's a 16 and 17 that they released separately.
Let me stop you there because I think it's 11 through 14. And then
there's a 3 in the other one? Okay, that makes more sense to me.
That does make more sense.
But either way, there's 2 separate volumes of those, so don't read one and then think you're done. You got to get them both. But we'll be doing those issues. And then a Big Finish mainline story, number
82, The Settling.
The Settling, which is another one that threw me because the first time I put it on the schedule, I misspelled it. And I left the L out, and it was just the setting. And I went, well, what is the setting? And now it's the settling, which makes less sense.
Well, sometimes when your house starts to settle, it makes all those creaks and groans, and that's going to be very scary. So it will be the Doctor coming in to investigate a settling house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Haunted.
Maybe.
I don't know. We haven't listened to this one yet, so I'll find out this week.
Back to those comics, I believe if you're looking for the trade paperbacks, there is a chance that the volume 7, or is it 8? The later one.
The later one.
Probably is not out yet because, in fact,
oh really?
11th Doctor, the last volume of that year comes out in April. So, there's a chance that next set won't be out yet.
I thought for sure I saw it that it was out and saw it on Goodreads. Well, maybe that's where I saw it then.
Just because it's on Goodreads doesn't mean it's not out.
I'm not definitively saying it's not out. It may be out there already, but I know that the 11th Doctor doesn't come out until April, and those books were running simultaneous to the 10th Doctor books that were coming out in that section. So there's a good chance that second set's not out yet.
Okay.
Or last set's not out yet. That would be volume 7.
Yeah, it's 15, 16, and 17. And a bonus time-traveling story from year 3. Expected publication May 17th. So, no, it's not out yet. Yeah. So you'll have to get the individual ones.
That's how I track my Goodreads books.
Yeah, I don't do the individual.
Instead of doing individual ones. So, yeah.
The hardcover and softcover are out.
For volume 6.
For volume 6.
Okay, good.
Full schedule's on the website. Go look it up.
All right. Well, if you are supporting, if you're a patron supporter for us, we appreciate it. If not, then we hope you'll maybe look into that, see if you can throw a little money our way. Donations are handy to keep this show on the road. And again, for all of those people that are already supporting us, a huge thank you.
Thank you.
We're working on another thank you project to send out to those patron supporters, because you get a little something extra for your support. And so we're working on something as we speak, and we will let you know when that comes a little closer to fruition. The other thing that you can do for us to support us is click some of those links on the right side of our page on travelingthevortex.com. A portion of those proceeds go into the show as well. Anything else we need to talk about before we close this show?
There is one more thing I didn't mention scheduling-wise because I didn't want to get too far out, but I'm going to put you on the spot because I realized you didn't do your homework last week. Coming up in a couple of weeks. Okay. We're going to put us to poll soon.
We're going to do 3, I believe, is the way we've worked this out. Is there'll be a poll on Facebook, there'll be a poll on Twitter, and there'll be a poll on our website.
Go ahead and take it.
Well, what we're doing is down the road here, we want to know what you think are the worst monsters in Doctor Who, the real stinkers, the ones that you think are they're not even worth being in Doctor Who, or you think they're kind of the bottom of the barrel, the last rung. What we want to do is we want to examine those and maybe take a different look at those and a different approach and see if we agree with you. So what we're going to do is we're not going to put a list of every monster on there. I think what we're going to do is pare it down to probably 8 maybe, and we're going to collect all of the results.
You don't want to do a top 10?
Well,
bottom 10?
We could do even 10. So we're going to compile all of those together. We're going to take a look at some of the monsters and see if we can come up with maybe a different look at some of the classic stinkers.
We're challenging ourselves to find the redemption,
yeah,
in these monsters that kind of suck.
Which we strive to do anyways.
We tried to do it anyway, but we thought, let's really throw the gauntlet down and see what we can come up with.
What we have found is a lot of times we come across episodes of stories that we review that we typically go against the general fan consensus of stories, and so we wondered if that might be the case in certain situations with monsters as well. So it's kind of like you said, it's a challenge, and it's kind of a test to see where we fall down on the side of these. But those polls will be coming soon. We're going to do a little housekeeping after the show, because that was one of the things that we need to formulate how we're going to do it.
So be on the lookout for them, and vote early and vote often.
All right, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.